Hi, welcome. I am Quinn Red Mountain, host of the Web of Life Animist Network, and I'm happy to be here with Adun, who is has been ordained as a reverend through Web of Life and also a pastoral counselor. And they now host. They've created and host Healing Queerly Collective. It's great to be with you. Hi, Adun.
Hi, yeah, thanks for having me. I'm really excited to be here.
Yeah, it's good to be able to connect with you in this way. This is the first time we've talked like this. So, um, yeah, I mean, there's lots of ways that we could start this and many things to talk about. I am curious, one to hear a bit about your background as a younger person, but also about however you talk about it, your animist beginnings, I guess, your animist even, and we don't usually use the word. We didn't use the word back then, right? But now
Mm.
looking back, like the threads within your animist self that you now see from when you were a young Adon. Let's start there. What comes to mind about that? Because, and I'm asking because so many people are ready to recognize their own threads in their own lives and recognize these ways as something important, even though often they were maybe disregarded or not named. So,
Mm.
what would you like to say about that?
Yeah. Thank you so much for the question. I love this one because it's something that I've been reflecting a lot on lately in general of like, how to synthesize my younger self into my current self. And I realize in my reflection that animism has always been in the forefront of my life. I was raised as a rancher, cowboy, conservative person in my family of origin. And so, from a very young age, I was working with the animals, I was working with the land, I was working, we were hunters, I was raised with, how to steward land in a way. And that was really like my foundational aspect. I was always in nature, in the outdoors. We were very much outdoorsmen. My playtime was outside. My best friends was the tree in the wash back behind my house. And so looking back, like animism was at the forefront of that. And of course there was, some things that now today I don't believe are in alignment, of like treating animals in a certain way or, the modernized commodification of animals and production of them.
Mm.
And so as a sensitive soul and as a young sensitive soul, it was sometimes, actually not sometimes, pretty often really challenging for me to be in that environment because I had such a deep connection with the animals that I worked with. We had horses, I raised pigs in 4-H. And even just like being a 4-H kid, like 4-H is such a valuable tool and asset to raise so many, to like learn life things, what is life? What is birth? What is death? Um, what is being in relationship with animals in a way that, you do know that they are bringing something into your life. I had a really hard time in that specific one because I just couldn't understand why especially specifically, raising pigs. And if anyone's had any like relationship with pigs, they are just the most intelligent, caring, kind animals. And so obviously I formed deep, deep attachments to my animals and I got them, as babies. And so y- being like, the goal of 4-H is to sell your animal for slaughter. And I just couldn't handle that. It was just so devastating for me, to a point where I actually ended up stopping it on my own free will because I really just couldn't handle it. Like it would wreck me for months after because I just couldn't understand how I can form this attachment to a young one and then its life got ended so quickly. And it like didn't really make sense to me. So much so, like when I look back, my parents would always give me grief about not wanting to eat meat and like hiding it in my pockets. And because I definitely like grew up in like you don't leave the table until your food's done kind of family. And so that soul version of me was always there, like questioning, which I loved because that's my authentic, that now looking back, I can see my authentic self in those expressions. But at the time, that was just really challenging for me, especially in being raised in that environment. It was harsher, like we weren't allowed to have emotions or sensitivities. I mean, still to this day, my family will be like, I don't understand how you're so sensitive. We didn't raise you to be that way.
Hmm.
And it's like, it's almost as if, it's just who I am.
Who is
And
this child that arrived in our family? Yeah.
yeah, like this, a deeply sensitive being.
Hmm.
I've always been such a deeply sensitive being and so emotional. I'm a Pisces. So, like,
Mhm.
like emotions, I just wear them on my sleeve. And I had a really hard time. And so I realized from a really young age, challenging the narrative of like, what are we doing here? Why is this? Like, this doesn't make sense to me. Like it was always just weird to me. I'm like, why do we drink milk? Like another species milk? Like I just these questions that I, looking back, I'm like, wow, what a wise little one I was. But then how deeply like unsafe that made me and my family of origin to like push back on those narratives that pe where people were like, this is how you do it, and this is how we've always done it, and this is the way, and so obviously my own conformity led to my safety in that. And I became a product of my environment. And so animism, being in relation with the land, being a steward. I mean, my dad was very advocate of teaching me, like when we were hunting, how to be with nature and understand kind of the rules of nature, the laws of nature, how to leave it better than we found it, how to like these really core values of me that I just are so deeply woven inside of me now. And I'm so grateful for that because I am a steward of the land. I'm the steward of the land in my neighborhood. I'm a steward of the land when I go out into nature. I'm a steward of the land wherever I am because that is a core value of mine. And so animism to me was like, in ways something that I was given. And I'm so deeply grateful for that connection because I do think that, my past has a big role in the work that I'm here to do because of my upbringing, if I'm a radical hippie now, and so like if I would go into these groups of people and be like, this is what I think, or this is who I think we should be doing or being, they'd be like, fuck off. Like
Mhm.
get out of here. You don't know anything. But I was a beef ambassador. I was in the Cattlemen's Association. I was the president of my agriculture club in college. I was a fierce advocate for agriculture because that was what my life had given me. And I was a rodeo athlete. I roped until college, and that was a huge part of my identity. And in 2011, I've had some pretty extreme circumstances that led me to losing that identity and losing my horses and getting that identity ripped away from me in a really traumatic way left me so lost and confused because it was like one of the biggest catalysts of being. I was 18 and you know I do believe like rodeo was like my saving grace. It was the thing that I loved, I was good at. I got a rodeo scholarship. Like it was who I was, and it wasn't in alignment to who I needed to be. And so it getting ripped away from me in such a tumultuous, traumatic way left me so lost for a really long time until honestly until I stumbled into the web of life in my first year of sobriety because I didn't know what that connection with the land was anymore. I didn't know. I knew 1,000% that how I was raised wasn't an entirety of my alignment. Like there were so many parts of it that weren't in alignment, and specifically so much so that like the first 3 years of my sobriety, I was vegan because it was like my amends to my upbringing because I don't align with production, farming, mass farming, the production of animals, and monocropping, all the things that we're doing to the land to be takers,
Mm,
and not have a reciprocal relationship. Because, when I listened as a young person to my dad, we weren't just takers, but what we were, that was the action that we were doing was just takers. But then there was this philosophy of the land is here to give, and if the land doesn't have it, then we don't have it. And so it was like I was realizing the like cognitive dissonance that was being taught to me of like, well, you say this one thing, but then you go do this other thing. Like, what is integrity in here?
mm.
And so when I was in college, my major was agriculture with a minor in plants and weeds. Specifically, I did research studies, teaching cows how to utilize weeds in their local environment to diversify their food and forage. And, real big advocator of agriculture, and still questioning, and still questioning, like, I feel like I'm just getting one side of this story here, and especially in like mass education and birds of a feather flock together,
Right.
going
Yep.
against those quotes, like
Yeah.
it wasn't easy,
Very
like,
difficult.
yeah, I've been a rebel my whole life,
It
in
takes
every
a lot of
sense.
courage and persistence to stick with it. Stick with going against the grain
Yeah.
of the ones that you've grown up, someone has grown up with, and why most
Yeah.
people don't do it. And
Yeah,
then they
it's
they have to live
awful.
with that cognitive dissonance, and then all the behaviors that go along with it, right? Like
Yeah.
addiction or numbing or um, emotional issues because they feel stuck. People feel
Yeah, the
stuck.
disease, the
Mm-hmm.
disease of being disconnected from our true nature. And that's
Mm-hmm.
what we are, right? That's what, like, if we could put like a blanketed term of what we're experiencing in this world is a disconnection to self and a disconnection to the earth and the beings in it, right?
Right.
And, you know, luckily, I've always been so deeply guided and, stewarded in ways. And I worked with the Bureau of Land Management in my early 20s, and I worked with some pretty far out hippies. And I was
Did they
like,
blow your mind?
Absolutely. I was like,
Boom! What?
wait a minute here. I Something deep within me feels a resonance to it. But then it was like also going against like
But what does that
deprogramming.
mean? What does that
Yeah.
mean about me? Oh my God.
Yeah, yeah. And so
Cracking open completely.
absolutely,
Mm,
absolutely. And so yeah, that's like animism for me. It's always been a part of my life,
mm-hmm.
and that's why, in my sobriety, when I was in a 12 step and I was seeking what a higher power meant for me, I started with the elements because I was like, that's like a tsunami would fuck me up, or, like I can,
Yeah.
like, a tornado rolls through here. I'm Dunsky, like these are way bigger. That mountain is way bigger than me.
Mm-hmm.
And that was like a tangible way that I could find a higher, something bigger, something greater than myself. Because, being queer, growing up in religion, in a dogma religion, but always being a seeker in that way too, I was like, I know that God, the judgmental God, is not for me, this
Mm-hmm.
dogma thing. And I do, there is something there. I just have to figure it out. And so when I found, Web of Life, it was like my mind just kind of, it all
Yeah.
clicked. It felt like it like synthesized in a way that I was just like, I'm home
Mm.
because this is everything that I was working towards in my life in so many ways. And it's like, oh, like
Well, to
this
have a word
clicks.
and to have, oh, this is something, right?
Mm,
It's not some weird anomaly about me. I hear that so many times. Like it gives a place like, oh, there are words to describe this. Oh, other people are this, some version of this way too. It's not just me being weird or broken. Because most people who are surrounded by the culture, whatever version of it, and there's lots of versions that are discounting and separating, that then what ends up, even if someone in their core of cores knows I'm not crazy, but still there's no place to fit.
I don't belong.
I don't belong in this, which is a
Mm,
horrible, horrible feeling. I used
terrible.
to, when I was in my early 20s, before I got turned on to things, I would just like put my head on my stupid little desk at my stupid little job because I was like, I I don't belong here. I don't know where I belong. I don't know what to do because this is all I know. But I would just like hit my head lightly on the desk, like, get me the F out of here. But I didn't know where else to go. And luckily, life brought parts, right? Pieces to threads to follow. But so I'd like to. So you've mentioned sobriety a few times. So because that is a big deal. Whatever the thing is that people might use to numb or to kind of soothe a certain part of discontent in us, right? Like almost everyone does it somehow. Maybe it's TV and the clicker, or maybe it's porn, or it's shopping, or it's sugar, or it's a substance, whatever it is. So in a way that feels comfortable to you, what would you like to say about that part of your journey?
Mhm.
Like,
Yeah,
and one, did you, some people, this has not been, I used to drink the bottom of my dad's beers as a little one. But a number of people get turned on to, especially alcohol, because it's now, I imagine, cannabis and other things because it's so available, really young and continued. But other people, it came later. So and again, whatever feels comfortable, what archetypally would you like to say about that? Because so many people deal with it.
absolutely. I'm so open and transparent about my recovery because it is, I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for that, and
Mm,
so my recovery, I'm like my relationship with my higher power and then my recovery are like the highest things,
mm,
and without those two things, I wouldn't be here today. Um, So yeah, going back to family origin, I didn't really have I didn't really have a lot of choice in the matter. I grew up, if anyone knows like cowboy ranching, it's historically pretty goes hand in hand with alcoholism.
it's in the
And
sauce. Yeah, yeah.
it's just what it is,
Hmm.
And so growing up in that environment and being in that culture, and from a very young age, I started drinking. It was like something to be proud of, something to be, like, oh yeah, I could take so many shots. Yeah, and
Yeah.
I'm like 10 years old,
Mm,
like
mm,
so I I do want to be transparent and say that, like, this is absolutely not me shaming or criticizing this community because there's so much good in this community and just really good people, good-hearted people that are doing the best with what they know.
hmm.
And we will just keep doing what we know until we know differently. And my hopes is that the more people who have gotten sober talk about this and talk about, cowboys getting sober, hopefully, cowboys get sober
Mm,
because they deserve it because, I I didn't have a whole lot of chances of not being an alcoholic, and I was raised by two alcoholics in their different ways, and also both being really hurt people, carrying a lot of trauma that, they may or may not agree with even today.
Mm.
And I experienced some really huge trauma in my childhood, as well as, the constant ongoing trauma of not being able to be who I was. And so from a really young age, I conformed into that environment, and that was how I survived in a lot of ways. I was the party person. I didn't really know anything other than that. And I talked a little bit about 2011. I lost two horses and a best friend that year.
Mm.
And I was 18 years old and well just had turned 19. And and I couldn't handle it. I couldn't handle losing that identity of being a cowboy, a roper, not having any horses. I couldn't handle the grief of my best friend from high school dying. I couldn't handle it. And then again, I was, told like, I don't understand why you're having such a hard time here.
Really?
And
Oh,
yeah.
wow.
Yeah, I mean, emotions are foreign entities,
Yeah, to be avoided at all costs.
to
Yeah.
all costs,
Nothing good comes of feeling stuff, kid. You just
Ex
gotta like cut it
except
off. Yeah.
anger. Yeah, we
Yeah,
can
right. Yeah.
and rage. Like
And
we can do
rage.
those.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Mm.
those were acceptable, but so then after 2011 my alcoholism like really ramped up into my younger adulthood of like that's just what young people do.
Hmm.
And then I was living in a small town in Nevada. I finally kind of uncovered that I was gay, and it was deeply unsafe for me to be gay where I was. And so I moved back down to Tucson, and that's where I was introduced to cocaine. And, I, at the same year, found out my dad wasn't my biological father, and I just I got lost,
Dove
even
in.
more.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Mm.
it just ramped everything up, and I dropped out of college. I got my car repo. I literally like I just went into it. I became a
Mm.
drug dealer. I just did everything in my power to not deal with myself. Because I didn't know how to. I had no idea, and I was carrying so much fucking pain
Mm.
that I was just,
It's always there. You can't get
yeah,
away from it. Yeah.
and I couldn't, and it
Yeah.
was and being such a sensitive soul, being deeply emotional, it was just I didn't have a choice. Like I
Mm.
didn't know how to deal with that, and I had no one in my corner advocating for me or helping me or like shining a light in any way. And I was pretty ostracized from my family. Like I knew that they weren't going to support me or show up for me. So they didn't know that I was in severe addiction. And um, you know,
One thing about that, like severe addiction thing that's tough though, too, is the way that people around can address it or think about it is, oh, that's horrible, that's too bad. It's a disease, yes, but without really taking it as a clue, like, okay, there, what's underneath it, what pain is there, what trauma is untended. Uh and so there's, in most groups of people, family structures, now it's a little more like, even to bring up like, hey, honey, whatever, therapy is an option. And back then, a while ago, it wasn't really an option. It was too
mm,
expensive, it wasn't accessible, no, very few young people would ever think about it. Now with apps, and it's a little, there's more accessibility, so it's, someone might say, think like, ooh, I need some help here. um and I'm glad that that is changing. But I just wanted to mention that because it's such a cry for help
1,000%.
at that point. Like,
It's a
you're just like
symptom.
kind of emotionally bleeding out all over everything. And oh, that's so sad, or oh, get away, or, and it's not like, okay, what is this, why is this happening? It's not because there's a flaw in you, right? You're innately broken, and that's why you have this gene. And I think even in families where the generation after generation there's alcohol or whatever it is, and oh, it runs in the family. Well, why is that?
1,000%. Yeah,
Right?
no, that
It's very
generational curse.
limited attitude about it. Oh, that's too bad. And then no inquiry at all.
Yeah, or like this real deep criticism
Yeah,
and
shame.
shame,
Mhm.
which is deeply present in
Oh,
my
and then
family
more of like,
origin.
I'm broken, so I guess
Hmm.
I better keep going in this
Absolutely.
hole. Yeah.
Which is so defeating, you know?
Hmm.
It's like why how one, I have no fucking idea how to better my life. Two, I'm dying. I'm fucking dying
Hmm.
and
By
I'm
your own
dying
hand, really.
and I'm dying alone. And
Yeah.
I know that I'm doing this and I don't know how to stop.
Hmm.
And the isolation and the aloneness and the story of I am broken, I'm not enough, I'm a fuck up, I'm a
Yep.
failure, you know, which is
That goes
something
so deep.
so deep that if those are my core wounds, if I believe I am inherently not enough and not good enough, why or how would I be better? You
Hmm.
know? And I have a heart the size of the earth, it feels like. I just have the biggest heart. And the desire to be better was there always.
But no
Um,
tools,
but I had
no
no,
rope or ladder coming down in that hole and saying, hey, you
yeah,
look, here's something, get turned on. Like,
absolutely.
and
None.
that's why we have to have somebody else, and maybe in person, maybe online, maybe a book, who knows what, to be able that we hear or meet or they say something to us and it just like, what, oh, and then it cracks open and then we start following it or grabbing, reaching for it or being curious about it.
Yeah.
And that's available to everyone. No one is so broken to not deserve that kind of opening for
Yeah.
something different.
We
Yeah.
are all inherently worthy and deserving of love, compassion, and support. No
Mm-hmm.
matter what we've done, no matter where we've been, I do not believe in bad people. I believe in a lack of love and to the core, right? And that's not me, you know, saying it's okay to commit extreme violences or sufferings to another. Um, but I will be absolutely transparent and I was not a good person. I did terrible things. I hurt people I loved. I manipulated. I had no idea how to be who I am today. I had not one fucking clue. And I I know how hard it is. I know how hard it is to shift everything that you are not into everything that you want. You know, it takes such a dedication for your mind, your body, and your soul to get on the same page. And I tried getting sober at 25 due to one of my exes figuring out because I hid it from her,
Mm.
you know, and she gave me an ultimatum and I actually just wrote a blog post about this. I was like, all right, I'll get sober. I cut cocaine and alcohol cold turkey. Um, and at 25, I realized I fucking hated myself. And I had nothing in me. There was nothing.
That's what was underneath.
I was, I was a zombie.
Mm.
I was a living corpse of emptiness and hurt.
Mm.
And, you know, I think I got like maybe 3 months, maybe 6 months at that time of sobriety. And it was a day by day, like moment, hour by hour to keep myself alive. Um, I I never wanted to die more than those times. And when that relationship ended, she she said that, she said something like, you'll never get sober without me or something like that. You can't do this. Like you're not going to do it.
Mm.
And
The
then
gauntlet is thrown down.
yeah,
Yeah.
but she was right in ways,
Mm.
because I didn't get sober for me at that time, and so for like 2 years, I was in an ongoing off again, on again, trying to figure it the fuck out. I didn't think that alcohol was a problem because I was in such an environment that it was just so
It's part of life every
normalized.
day,
Yeah.
right? Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Hmm.
everywhere. It's all around you. I had no idea. I thought I had a cocaine problem.
Mm.
And of course I was using other substances all the time too, but it was mainly cocaine um and then I'd get drunk and I would relapse every fucking time
Mm.
because, I get a certain amount of being drunk and then someone offers me cocaine and I don't have the ability to have choice anymore.
Mhm.
Um, and it's so funny how life happens. I actually got my first tarot reading and she's in order for you to serve your life purpose, you have to get sober. And I was like, well, I'm sober right now, like I'm not using cocaine, but I literally like in this reading was drinking a beer.
Mm.
And she laughed at me. And she said, no, no, you have to get sober. And I laughed at her. And I was like, I don't have a problem with alcohol. And me stating that was like a declaration to the universe that we were like, great, buckle up, babe, because we're about to show you
We're
that
about
you
to
do.
kick you. We nudge you first. If you don't
Yeah,
listen, fine.
exactly. Yep.
And
We're gonna
it's
throw
stronger
pebbles
now. Yeah, right.
until we throw boulders. And in my rock bottom, I overdosed in cocaine. My best friend, who is still my best friend, she was one of the only relationships that I still have from then till now. Everyone was like, I don't know what the fuck to do. You know, I went morally bankrupt in a romantic relationship. And my brother came to visit, and he's like, as we're drunk, he's like, I think you're an alcoholic and you're dating your mom.
Ooh.
And, like a person just like your mom. And fuck, did that wreck me? Like all of those things happening within a month of each other, I fell to the ground. And what's really great about family origin is you have a clear picture of what your life is going to be if you follow down this path.
Yep,
And when I
definitely.
looked down those roads, I did not like what I saw.
Mm.
I did not want to be any version of them. And not in a way to criticize or judge them, but fuck, I wanted more. I saw how miserable and hurt and just just hurt. They
Openly
are
wounded.
open, just bleeding.
Hmm.
And I looked in the mirror and I saw that within me. And there's something clicked that day and I gave my life up. And I know it sounds so cliche and we hear it all the time, but like until you hit that bottom where you are disgusted with the person you're looking at in the mirror, you're probably not going to change,
It
you
only works
know?
if you do it for yourself.
Absolutely.
If you're doing it, if
Absolutely.
anyone is trying to do something like this for someone else or for a job, or, oh, I'll get in trouble if not, maybe it'll work. But usually people trade, right? They may not use a substance, but they gamble or they're
Hmm.
they're angry or whatever. Um, and it really does take like that's it. Like it's the not one more bit inside of this. It's kind of a calm in a way of like,
Yeah.
nope, that's it. I'm out.
Yeah.
That's the
Yeah.
only way it sticks.
Just a deep fucking surrender.
Yes.
And like, I had no idea who I was outside of this. I
Mm.
didn't know my hobbies. I didn't know who I was. I didn't know a goddamn thing about me because I got sober when I was 27 years old. And for 27 years, I was a chameleon. I conformed to every single room around me. I could be anyone. I could be anything that you want me to be because I had such a deep lovelessness within me that I was searching through love for love through anyone or anything, and I would be that version. I was just desperate,
Mhm.
dehydrated, just like trying for anyone to love me, or anything to love me. And so making that choice to get sober was so fucking hard because I there was not nothing inside of me that was like, this is what you need to do, or
Mhm.
like this is who you are, or this is how you live your life, or I questioned everything. I had to because I had to take rigorous inventory of who I was because I had no idea what was mine, what was my mom's, what was, you know, all the people around me. And that it was terrible,
So,
you
what
know?
were a few of the things that then, once you stumbled into them, that have been pieces of your puzzle of being able to discover yourself, of who you
Mm,
actually are? What are some things? Because I know there's a lot of people who are right where you were, right? Of like, well, I
yeah,
don't know. What do I do? What
yeah.
do I try? So, just what are a few of the things that you found helpful?
Well, in the beginning, I luckily found I was a month sober chasing a girl because I was a love addict also.
Yeah,
And
the layering of addictions and habits
bro,
is important for anyone to recognize. It's not
yeah.
just the thing, it's all these other things that are woven in
No,
there
oh
too.
my God. No,
Yeah.
yeah. Deep, it's
Hmm.
like substances and then it's like food and then it's like relationships and it's
Self
so,
worth. And
yeah,
yeah.
exactly. It's just so layered and so deep, right?
Hmm.
And we really got to get in there. So luckily I found 12-step program a month into my journey. And I'm no longer in a 12-step program. I haven't been since I left a year into my sobriety. I just celebrated 7 years last week,
Yay.
actually.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Good timing.
And I that I would recommend anyone to start there.
Starting there. Yeah.
I think that it, as a foundational piece, allowed me to take rigorous inventory of who I was and my fears and where I've gone wrong in my life and to find a higher power that was meant for me. And I know especially in like the queer community and BIPOC community, they have a really hard time with that higher power part
I would
because
say the
of,
animist community too,
yeah,
right? Like, or not the quite the God kind of vibe is.
yeah.
So there's a number
There's
of
a lot
groups.
of,
People don't stick with it or don't want to use it, but
yeah, but the 12 steps, like,
the actual steps, people could make them into something for themselves to start with,
absolutely,
and then find
absolutely.
another path. Yeah.
And there's so many groups and there's so many things. Like, if you don't like a group, just find one you do,
Yes.
And there's some things that I find deeply wrong in what we're doing in the 12-step room. I think it is ridiculous this is my hot take and my own
Hmm.
personal hot take. I think it's ridiculous to affirm that you're an addict every fucking day. I think that goes against your neurological development of becoming a new person. Like, why affirm what you were when that's what you're no longer working to be?
Becoming
Like that
something different. Yeah.
that
Hmm.
literally does not make sense to me. And from a neurological standpoint, it is actually deepening harm because our identities are so important and our brains are so smart.
What we
So
tell
it will,
ourselves tends to come
it's,
true. Yeah.
and so that's my next
I'm a
one.
piece of shit. I'm a this,
Yeah,
I'm a that. Yeah. It doesn't
yeah.
help.
My next one goes into deep reprogramming of your brain. Your neural pathways, you cannot outrun them. You cannot outrun your body. Your brain is your operation system. And
Mhm.
if your brain is operating in a deficit, you will always perpetuate that deficit. It is just facts. And not to be like new age spiritual, you are what you think, like in a toxic positive kind of way, but how you think and who you think you are dictating your life.
Well, something I'll add to that. So if we think about all our young times from in the womb, and we're being made by the matter of our parents, right? The organic matter of our parents and their parents and their parents and their parents. And then everything we hear, everything we observe, everything we're told starts to create pathways. So for someone, again, like to give ourselves shit about, oh well, my brain is broken, or I think this way and it's my fault. But I think that so much of this stuff we have inherited, we have been taught, and then we take it on as ourselves. And then we say, well, this is what I think. Is it? Is that
Yeah.
really what? And so and then to rewire like long standing patterns of trauma for most families, right? Dispensing trauma and receiving trauma in a personal way and a systemic way. It's been going on, unfortunately, for quite some time. And so
Eons.
that forms our brains. So that's deep work right there. But to take it out of a flawed self, this is, look at me, I am broken, again, is not the big picture. The big picture, so there's what we were born into, and then also the culture that teaches us what is real and not, and good and bad, and all of that. And there's a lot of problematic things, and we've talked about, right, as both white skinned people and trained as a white person in this culture. There's many deeply troubling things that, until we realize, wait a minute, like that's not real, or wait, that's a problem, or meeting people who weren't trained that way, or all kinds of things. It's a deep process, that brain
It's a
stuff you're
deep.
talking about, and a lot of it
Absolutely.
is very uncomfortable.
Very. I mean, your ego will absolutely have a shit start with it.
Break. I
Like it
mean, it
just
has to
can't,
break
it has to
down.
die in
Yeah, it has
waves.
to be broken down,
Hmm.
composted in something else. And
A
then that
thousand
there are
percent.
the threads of our deep self, right? Our sensitive
Mm.
self, that then start to shine through.
Yeah.
But we have
Yeah.
to be willing to admit in an honest way, like, this is bullshit, or this is wrong. This is not accurate. This is a myth. This is not true.
Hmm.
And to be willing to observe in a way where we can then seek out what actually is real.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of white supremacy in there. There's a lot of like really
Yeah.
not great stuff.
It's deeply woven, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
to decolonize your mind
Decolonizing our
is,
mind is essential.
yeah.
Essential. And why is it that addiction is so prevalent in this overall culture? It's because all of this multi-generational trauma dispensed and received and shared and perpetrated has been going on so long, specifically for people with European heritage. 1,000 years, 1,500
Eons.
years, like
Yeah.
800, a long time. That's many generations. And
Hmm.
they had no opportunity for therapy or any kind of help at all. So the only
Hmm.
way is just to numb that shit down.
Conform or
Um,
die. That's
Conform
literally,
or die. Yes.
that's what our ancestors
Yeah.
had to
And a
do.
lot of them couldn't conform and they died, like
And they died.
by others' hands, or by self
Hmm.
drinking themselves to. Every male like ancestor on both sides, definitely alcohol issues.
1,000%.
And I'll say, and
It
that's a
lives in our
polite way to
bones.
say it, alcohol
Hmm.
issues, right?
Yeah.
um and and most of them never even would approach the idea that there was anything wrong with that.
Hmm.
My father's father died of cirrhosis of the liver, like all kinds of things. So
Yeah.
it's deep.
It's a collective wound. It's collective wounding, right?
Yeah.
And it lives within our bones. It's in our
Yes. In
epigenetics.
our
It
literal cells.
and our cells are
Yeah.
wired and
Are
programmed in
made
this
of it.
way. Yeah. You have 60 to 90,000 thoughts a day, and
Mhm.
historically they are the same ones that are just getting over and over and over again reformed.
Mostly
And
never questioned until they are
mostly never quite.
overtly questioned.
And that's why curiosity is like so important.
Mhm.
You gotta get real curious about, you know, I go back home where I grew up, and like everyone looks the same. We drive the same trucks. We have the same attitude. And then I go in there and I'm very queer and I'm very, I'm from here, but I'm very
Mhm.
different
Very
now. And
different. Yeah.
and it's so funny to me when I walk into like the stares and the looks and the whispers and all the things. And I'm like, the funniest part about this is you think that looking the same, acting the same, thinking the same is right, and you have never once questioned why you're doing what
Mm.
you're doing, you know? And like it's hard, right? Like if I let's like if my family's historically Republican, and if I didn't question like, hey, what does this mean for me? You know, I would just be a Republican. And that's how many things in our lives are we doing because grandma did it
I
or
don't know. It's
dad
what we
did it
do.
or yeah, you know, I always
Yeah.
love the story of like, you know, there's the story of the mom that cuts the ham. And so then the daughter starts cutting the ham, and then turns out they're like, "Hey, why do we cut the ham? Like why do we?" And she's like, "I don't know, just what my mom did, you know." Turns out it just didn't fit in the
That was the
pan.
pan size she had. Yes.
That's the pan size
Yes.
you had, you know, and we're just doing these stupid shit, not even questioning
Mm.
why we're doing it. It's just how it is. And that's great. I love culture. I think as white people systemically, especially in America, do not have culture, and it is one of our biggest woundings
Mhm.
in why we are so ostracized and isolated and alone and this hyper individualistic things. Um, but if we don't start questioning why we're doing the things we're doing, then we cannot create change. Like individually,
And for the
systemically,
earth, like coming back to
yeah,
being an earth tender, practices of why things are done the way they are, and things done in the 1800s, why, what, like, um times change, things
yeah,
change, populations change, meaning numbers of how many actual humans there are change, technologies change. You said it's your seventh year, so there's that thing that every 7 years, like, all of our cells change.
yeah, I have a cellular new
So you
body.
are in a cellular new body by now.
Yeah,
I find
which
that to be very helpful because whether we like to think about it or not, we're changing all the time. And that doesn't stop until we're out of this body. So it's never too late, too, because some person might say, oh, I'm too old for all that change stuff. Absolutely not. That is not
no,
true. Not
no,
true
our
at all.
brains are so magnificently,
Neuroplasticity, if someone
yeah,
doesn't know that term, look it up. And it's true until the day we are done. So
yeah,
you could be 80, 90, 70, 60, whatever it is, and it's never too late to learn new things and to try and to be the thing about curiosity. Oh, really? You say that this is true? Well, and actually now it's never been easier
no, yeah,
because of the internet, because right, every
these little
possible, yes,
things.
those little devices, you just, like, you can speak your question in and see what comes up.
It's
There's really no excuse now for deciding to not be curious. It's mostly because people don't want to find out that what they've been thinking maybe is not accurate or not helpful, and that means that they need to change. Changing can be hard.
mhm.
Changing can is not fun often, but we all as a species, we're at the point where the nudge is moving into a kick,
A
right?
1000%. Get on the ship or get off of it, but fucking make a decision,
we're
you know,
we're fucking shit up, like,
dude,
significantly.
significantly.
And
And
yeah.
collectively, we have morally gone bankrupt. And if we
Hmm.
don't think that, then we are delusional because of what has been exposed, especially in the last year. We
Yep.
are at a moral bankruptcy collectively, and I do not have impact on 9 billion people. I have impact on the 9 billion cells that live within me. And there is no difference.
And the people
There
that
is
you
no
interact
difference in
with,
that. Exactly. And when
right, of
I
who
shift
comes in
that,
contact with you. Yes.
exactly. When I shift that, and let's talk about like epigenetics again, it's been brought up a lot. When I heal my cellular body,
Mm-hmm.
not only does it go 7 generations back of my ancestral line, it goes forward. And I'm not
Mm-hmm.
procreating. That is a choice that I'm choosing to withstand from because there's no reason why this lineage needs to continue on.
Right. Exactly.
It ends with me
Yep.
lovingly, like out of like that is a soul decision. But when we heal not only the fabrics of our being, the cells in our body, we turn off the DNA coding of trauma and survival,
Mhm.
and we turn on thriving and love and abundance and the capacity.
Cooperation and oh yeah.
Exactly.
Hmm.
Then it is inevitable that my environment will change with me. It cannot be not true,
Yeah.
because that
Well,
is
here's
what we're
a
here to do.
when you mentioned about going back where your family is and you walk in and all the okay, the younger ones of the lineage, right?
Mhm.
Who knows? There's one or more that have had questionings about themselves. They see you, they're like, "Oh, it's possible," right? Who knows? Even someone who's a full adult, they may not like what they think when they see you, but it turns them on to the idea like, wow, uh
Yeah.
as you go now, Adun has changed and it's possible. And so even that, like in your lineage, you don't know how by you existing and not being afraid to show yourself that it alters or affects other people in your blood lineage as
When
well.
yeah, when you have the courage to live an authentic life, you give everyone else around you permission to do the
And for
same.
some, it makes them incredibly uncomfortable and they want to squash it. That's what we're seeing now in the
Hmm.
big picture.
Yeah.
No, never,
Yeah.
no. But
Well,
it doesn't make that go away. It makes it stronger in
that's
the other people who are feeling it.
a
They may
thousand
hide
percent.
it, but then again, they have their phone, they have their computer at home or whatever. They can sit there and search and find something that will
Hmm.
help them do what they need to do. So it may
Absolutely.
be happening in secret at this point until maybe they're ready to break free.
Yeah.
But it's really necessary
It's
for more and more people who are already in the change to claim it and to realize this is important what I'm doing. And it takes a lot. It takes like it's like metamorphosis. It takes a lot of energy. I mean, I remember certain months I did the bare minimum. I could hardly do anything else because I was changing so much. I couldn't even I didn't have enough bandwidth to do a bunch of other stuff. And people would say, what's going on? Are you doing you don't look like you're doing much. And I didn't have the language or the energy to try to tell them, no, it's all internal, dude. It's like I am going through a lot right now. I'm trying to change myself, but it might look like nothing.
yeah. Well, it's slow. I
Yeah. Well,
mean,
it's like bursts and then
hmm
plateaus, right? And you never
yeah.
know when a burst is going to, it might blow you away and it feels like, oh my God. There were also times I felt like a dam had broken and all the water, this is a literal thing that I felt. All the water from the dam was like coming into me and I could hardly even hold it all.
Hmm.
And then that would stop and then I'm just sleeping or something. So there's a lot
So,
of, and then therapy also is really hard and it takes a lot of energy. And so if
thousand
someone
percent.
is investing in that with their time and their energy, then to give grace to themselves because they probably are not doing a lot else.
Absolutely. Grace and compassion have to be at the forefront. I always say with like my clients and the people that I work with, it's like this is your scale. Your trauma is here and that shit is heavy as fuck. And if you
Mm-hmm.
don't have grace and compassion equally or more so, your scale is going to be tipped. And but like, how do we have access to grace and compassion when we're overburdened, overworked, we don't have community, we don't, it's very hard to change.
Oh, so the community part. So as we're kind of moving towards wrapping this up for now, but one thing that I think about, which is you mentioned about the 12 steps. If you don't like a group, find another one. Okay. So I would also encourage people that sometimes we don't know exactly what we're looking for. So we try something.
Hmm.
Maybe we're not ready for it. Maybe it's not our thing. Maybe it's not our style. Maybe the way the people use words or their cultural way is not ours, or we're not comfortable with at the time. It doesn't mean we throw it all out. We keep looking and try, and so that takes courage unto itself. Walking into new rooms and new spaces, whether online or in person, like trying to meet new people, trying to be it's hard. It's whenever anyone come who's the first time when they come into Web of Life, I'm like, hey, I acknowledge it takes a lot of courage to step into a new place, because like myself, it's like, oh, is this going to suck, and then if I enter and then I want to leave, then that's rude, and then I'm stuck there the whole time. So to try things, right?
Yeah.
Like to be open and to give it time and to find something that does feel like a fit. And then the other thing is that I just saw a video of yours, of you being in nature, and I know you're doing an event at the end of the month in nature. So one other thing to consider is that our community is not only humans.
Hmm.
So we both have animal companions that have been deeply, deeply, deeply important and helpful to us. So there's that realm, but also water, a tree, right? Like nature, when we call it
Hmm.
nature. Someone just said to me a couple days ago, well, but yeah, but I don't really have experiences in nature because I live in an urban jungle. And I said, yeah, but you just used the word jungle. So
Hmm.
there's air, there's sun, there's plants growing up in the cracks of the sidewalk. There's probably a tree somewhere. There's a flower. There's nature, right? So we get trained to
Parks.
think like, oh, but I don't have access to that. We don't have to go far, right? We don't have to have the privilege or the finances to be able to drive and get out into nowhere or go to somewhere expensive. So what would you like to say about that, about some, because it's this process is also kind of isolating and kind of lonely in a way, like solitary, let's say, but during the process it can also feel lonely. And I
Yeah.
remember specifically, like, where the fuck are my people?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so now it's like I host a place where people can find some people, maybe it's not their people, but some people who are kind, and kind of have a similar way. So it's like I didn't know where the party was, so I had a party, and that's kind of what Web of Life is now. But what do you want to say about that? Because I think that that's the sustainer, is the courage to stick with the process, because it can be fucking slow and it can be lonely.
Yeah, it's hard. It's hard. Yeah, the nature was like my only friend, it felt like I mean, when I got sober, I lost majority of my friends. I came out with one of them, now two, who knew me before and after. Of course, I have like acquaintances and stuff, but I always laugh. I felt bad for my sponsor at the time because like they were probably tired of me always being at their house because I didn't have anyone. I didn't have any damn
Mm.
friends. I didn't know anyone that was doing the thing that I was doing and so man, I mean being in nature is like that's just who I am. It's a part, but like if I didn't have access to the trees and to the world around, whether that's a park, whether that's, my back, the trees that guard my house, whether, whatever, that is where they're my greatest teachers because when I go into nature, when I go into the forest, whatever topography you live in, the desert, the jungle, whatever, you can find so much compassion for what's around you, so much beauty, so much love. Because you don't, majority of people don't look at a tree and judge it and say, like, why is that tree's limb like this? Or, like we're not judging the trees. And Ram Dass, he's one of my greatest teachers. And, he says when we go out into the forest, we can find unconditional love in there.
Mm.
And when we can come back into society and find that love for our brothers, sisters, and siblings, we have arrived in the sense of love, in the space, in the lens of love. And gosh, I mean, to this day, I still visit the trees that got me here. And there are deep relationships with me because fuck, at one point the tree was the only one I had to talk to.
Mm,
Like I could only talk about, all the really hard things. And so the people are great. And also people are people. And, you know, I'll just leave it at that. People are people, and you have to have a great level of discernment when in regards to people. And if you don't have access to discernment yet, it can be kind of challenging. It can hurt, you know. But when you're building yourself up, when you're on this devastatingly hard, isolating path, Mother Earth is there. She is there, and she is so wise, and she will hold you and embrace you and take the things that are harming you or hurting you internally, and teach you how to repurpose it to where you can find your truth. In nature is where I found that I was trans. In nature is where I found love for myself. In nature, I have found myself because I found the interconnection of me and the trees and the grass and the rocks and the mountain holding me, and the peace and the nervous system regulation that it just naturally brings. She is a hug that never ends. She will embrace you and hold you and witness you in ways that no human ever can, without biases, without judgment, without anything. Because if you're questioning your life, you can turn to nature to find the answer.
mm,
Transness is in nature.
mhm.
Queerness is in nature. Authenticity is in nature. Slowness is in nature. Spaciousness is in nature. There, there's no oak tree trying to be an aspen, you know? And so if you don't have community yet, if you don't have yourself yet, if you don't have the way, go into nature. Like, in whatever way you have access to. If that's just your tree outside, hug it, talk to it, be with it, build a
Tell it your
relationship with it.
troubles. Yeah.
Yeah,
Well, and I
tell it.
think that the like find like be in some nature. Sometimes people have to recognize there's nature beings everywhere, right? That we just drive by or anything. So find one tree and touch
Yeah,
it and tell
yeah,
it what's hard and ask it, could you take some of this for me? A stone on the ground.
absolutely. Absolutely.
So it doesn't have to be some big, like, yeah, a big place that's all natural. Look for individual beings, and part of it, this is one of my, I read a book of right in the early days, when I started changing myself, and there was a traditional practice that was shared with this guy about, lean up against a tree and start, in this case it was start talking out loud to your ancestors. But you could talk out loud or in your mind, but like talking as if you're talking to another being, to the
Hmm.
tree, to the stone, and that you ask for help. And that's another thing which is important, which is when we're connected, when we know that in ways maybe that we can't even see in the moment that we're connected, then it gives us someone, something that we could ask help from. Please, I
Hmm.
need help right now. I'm open to assistance, because so many people are taught just suck it up and don't ask for help. That's weak. But
Mm.
but nature is always helping each other out. Every part of
Yeah,
nature helps another part of nature, and we're part of nature. We're not
yeah,
separate of nature from nature.
no. And if we can
Actually,
remember that,
and when
that's,
we forget is when it's most important that we remember,
yeah.
because we're going to forget, right?
Hmm.
How you were talking about nature reminds me, I've written this poem a long time ago that was kind of a request for support. And there's just a couple parts, one part that, I'll just will close with, because it reminded, what you just said reminded me. It's like source, great spirit, whatever you want to use. Please grant me the, consistency of stone, the fluidity of water, the
Mm.
persistence of wind, the just rightness of sun, you know, it went on and on. But like that I am asking for the strengths, the abilities of these beings that I see around me, and asking to have them share it with me. And I come back to versions of that often because so many things in life we need help. We can't do it
Absolutely.
alone. And to know
Absolutely.
we're not talking to some God in the sky, you know, like
Yeah.
sitting in a throne. It's not like that. It's like everywhere. The air that we breathe is the same air that's been on this planet, just keeps recycling through all of us, right? It's
Absolutely.
the air that the trees kick out for us.
Yeah. I
So,
think that is the most tangible thing that if someone is listening and they're trying to figure it out for themselves, and why I believe animism has to be become well known again, is it is tangible.
mhm.
I know how strong a rock is. I know how strong water is. I know the flow. I can see it. I can feel it. I can grab it with my hands. I can feel its presence. It is within me and around me.
Yes.
It is not this theistic,
Something that happened 2000 years
something
ago that once, you know, and like we
that
have to
man
hope
has
it
told a
happens again. Yeah.
story. Yeah,
Yes.
this
It's every
like
day, all day.
malevolent thing that
Mm-hmm.
we have no fucking understanding, or like it's just story. This is all just story of,
Mm.
and there's just different stories telling a similar story,
Yeah.
and if those stories don't resonate with you, go into the earth,
Mm-hmm.
because she is there. You have everyone has access to her, no matter where you're at, no
No
matter
matter
who you
where.
are. She is a undeniable force to be reckoned with,
Mm-hmm.
and
That we are a
but
part
also
of.
that we are her children,
Yeah.
and
She
she
feeds
loves
us.
us.
Mm-hmm.
She loves us in a way, because there's nothing in nature that does not provide.
Mm-hmm.
It is for us, and it is free. It is here. We have access, and it is a reciprocal energetic exchange that is there's nothing greater. There's no person that can
No.
emanate what she is, because she is everything. She's everything. And
And that
so,
right there is something that we are likely getting in the zone now of realizing. Like we've taken
yeah,
it for granted for so long, this our cultural way. It's like, oh yeah, you think you can live without me? Hmm. Like without all the
yeah,
bounty of everything that takes care of
hmm,
you, with your air, with your water, with your food, everything.
yeah,
Okay, well, let's see about that.
yeah.
And
And
that's the era
she's,
that we're edging into because of our denial of the wisdom
absolutely,
of the collective on
yeah.
this planet. Yeah.
We cannot be takers anymore. The taking is done. We have enough. There is enough in
Yes,
this
there's more than
world.
enough for
There's
everyone.
more. There's an
There really is.
abundance. Scarcity. I love The Serviceberry by Robin
Mm.
Kimmer,
Mhm.
because, she says nature is abundant. There is no scarcity in nature. There
Yeah.
is just transitions. There's just change. There is just seasons of drought or whatever. But when there is a season of drought, we collectively combat it together. We all experience it,
Mm.
And when we can turn that into our lives, into our mission, into ourselves in a real radical way, we realize that we we can receive and we can give, and we can be stewards of ourselves and the land in a way that we're not takers anymore. And we have enough technology and science and awareness to know how, to know what, and no matter where you're at in this journey, um, may she guide you, because she's alive. She is her own being. She has a heartbeat. She has a rhythm. She has breath. She is
Mm.
very much alive, just as we are. And there is no separateness in that.
Yeah. And in that we all belong.
Yeah, absolutely. And
Yeah.
if you have never felt like you've belonged, and you can be held by her, there's no greater gift.
Mm,
There's no greater gift. As someone who has experienced that too, I feel the tears welling up inside of me of what a gift that is and how I would be a fool to discredit that because that is the first place young self, current self, and future self has experienced belonging.
absolutely. Adun, Healing Queerly Collective. You can find them in Substack and Instagram, around in places. So thank you so much for this conversation and your perspective. You really are a bright light in this world, and I'm glad that you stuck with the process.
Thank
So
you
thank
so
you so
much.
much.
Yeah, thanks for having me and thank you for being a part of this journey. You've played a huge impact on it and the web in entirety, the network, all of the network, the beings, in
Well,
Minnesota
actually,
and
this
this.
series of me talking to different ministers, reverends of Web of Life is called Connecting the Web,
Mm,
because now of like we all are doing our individual things and to highlight different people and the ways that they're connecting. So to
yeah,
be able to turn more people on to these ideas.
absolutely. And if you're listening and there's anything that like spoke to you or you resonated with, or you hate even,
Mm-hmm.
like,
Mm-hmm.
uh, send me a message, send me an email. I would love to talk with you. If you need help, if you're trying to get sober and you're trying to figure your life out and try to figure out what authentic living lives, like I'm here as a
Mm,
tool and as a consort because man, we deserve all the help that we can get and I know how fucking hard it is and
mm.
I guarantee you're doing a way better job than you think you are. So,
Absolutely.
keep
Definitely. Even the
yeah.
shittiest days. Hey, it was a day. We'll just
Yeah.
keep going.
My worst days now are like my greatest days
Yeah,
before,
it's all relative too. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Take care, Don. Thank you.
Thank you so much.